Hello and welcome back everyone. In today's episode, I wanted to show you how I got my Mora knife, the Mora Basic, to be compatible with your average ferrocerium rod. Now when you buy these knives from the factory, their spines are not finished, so they will not strike ferrocerium rod. And I did try to get a video of that, feature, or I should say that situation on camera. Unfortunately, when I tried to film this, the footage was too dark and I could not capture it. Its inability of scraping off the magnesium and sparking the ferro rod. But what I did show, what I was able to capture, was how I used a series of common hand tools to finish the spine and get it into a shape where it does actually spark the ferro rod. Now, tools you will need to do this are probably available to you right now in your toolbox, or if not, I would highly recommend getting them. The tools you will need are files, preferably a fine file, some sandpaper, and masking tape. Optionally, I would also suggest using a vise to hold down the blade as you work. This will help greatly, but if you don't have that, it would be fine as long as you just tape up the blade to kind of cover that live sharp edge that it comes with. Now these Moras come really sharp out of the box. It was shaving sharp when I got it. And then you just have it stay steady as you use your file to finish off the back. I will try to find a picture. I took a picture of the spine of this before I finished it, and I'll show it to you right now. And as you can see, it has some forging marks, so to speak, because these knife blanks are punched out of a piece of steel before they are finished off into a blade. Now, a fair warning before you continue doing this project: knives are sharp, of course, and in the video footage where I do the sanding, now the sanding is optional, but if you're gonna do it, I would highly recommend gluing it to a flat piece of surface. I don't know whether it's a plank of wood or anything, and then just scraping the filing marks off of the spine. Using that method, when I reviewed the footage, the tip of this knife seemingly got really close to my fingers as I was filing, or sanding I should say, even though it wasn't like that in person, because I would have realized that. It does seem like it in the video, so do be careful. I saw that footage and I kind of cringed a bit. Another thing I would recommend is, if you have one of these magnesium ferro rods, is create a big pile, because I made a small pile of shavings and it struck for a second, but it wasn't really impressive. I would say make it at least size of a quarter or something. Now, with that being said, let's get into the video and see how we get the spine to be finished. Now, as you saw, this spine is not smooth enough to produce sparks off of that ferrocerium rod, or scrape any magnesium off to spark, to throw the sparks onto. But I'm going to show you an easy way you can plane this down without any without any expensive tools. It's really easy. What you need is some tape, and you just tape off the blade like so. Now, some people just square off the end over here, just where you'll be using it to scrape off the magnesium. But I tend to go the entire blade length as much as I can, all the way to the front, because I think it ends up looking a little nicer. Hang on, I'm going to pause the video and tape up the blade, and we'll be right back. Okay, now with the knife blade taped up, I also tape up a little bit of the back side here, because I don't want to have the file, kind of mar up the plastic. These Mora knives are really nice. They're a really good economy, you know, knife, the Mora Basic, but I still don't want to have it be all scratched up or anything, so we just put it here in the vise. I don't want to put a death force on it because it's not going to be going anywhere. Then I get my my file. This particular one's a mill bastard file, and then I just make my cuts. Now you want to take your time. You don't want to do this in a rush, even though it is a very fast job. You just cut away until you see nice shiny metal. Now I like to go at these little angles. And then I go off the opposite way. Now let me tell you, this steel that they use on these Mora blades, it is pretty tough, because when you're doing this, you're gonna feel it like it's like you're filing on glass. But at the same time, I mean, it is carbon. I don't know, it's carbon steel. I'm sure there's some machinist somewhere all banging his head against the keyboard saying I'm doing it wrong, but main thing to do is try to keep your hands from rolling. You want to keep it as parallel, I mean as perpendicular to the spine as you can. And now, just a little more. I think this vise is magnetized because the metal shavings are sticking to it like crazy. Okay, now it's time to go to sandpaper. 1 second, I'll be right back. I gotta find me some sandpaper. Okay, now I got some sandpaper, and I'll be using this flat spot on the back here to kind of clean up this the spine. What you need to have is the spine needs to kind of do this, although be careful doing that. You just need it to be sharp enough to kind of scrape your nail, have a bit of a bite, so to speak. So but you don't need to do this really. You could just leave it like that. I just want to smooth it up a little bit. Now it's again very important to keep the knife perpendicular to the sandpaper. And not to roll the edges. And that looks pretty good. The more you clean it up, the better it'll look. But I'm not going for no beauty contest. I just gotta make sure that when I need it, hang on, let me see if you guys can see this, if it'll spark this or not. Yes, it does. Okay, let's go test it out. Let's go test it out in the yard again.